Hello and welcome to another episode of the Audio Elgin podcast. This is Abigail Fritz at the Elgin Museum, and today I will be speaking with Tom Mattis about his work as City Manager of Elgin. Could you start by telling me what a City Manager does?
The city manager is basically the chief executive officer of the city. I think in Texas, it's the most prevalent form of local government for cities. In many ways, what the city manager does is what a lot of people think the mayor does. And then basically in small towns like in Elgin, the mayor and city council are obviously part-time jobs. They all have real jobs. And so while they represent the citizens collectively as a group, they come together and hire one individual to serve as the chief executive officer and run the day-to-day operation. So city manager is I work for the council, the mayor and council as a whole, not any individual one of them. But they provide policy direction as a group, and then it's my job to I basically supervise all the employees. Elgin is the seventh town, I guess, I've been city manager in.
Why did you move around so much?
That's kind of nature of the work. You know, one of the things they say is that if you're a city manager, there's only one of those jobs in town. And it's also the nature of the work, as you might imagine. Councils change, managers change. You know, it's an inherent part of government to try to have kind of routine turnover and change. So the manager would be part of that. And, individually, always good to have new challenges sometimes. And so it's just the nature of the work.
What were your first impressions of Elgin?
Mostly good. I think it was small, and having been in Kyle for all that time and going through a lot of big growth there and being really familiar with Austin and how it's just been crazy with growth and development over the last 20 years. I was a little surprised to see that Elgin hadn't really experienced much of that when I came here. We're seeing that really change dramatically. Like everybody, I knew Elgin for the barbecue. You know, the South Side's got every person that I tell I'm in Elgin now says, "Oh, we're Southside barbecue." And I kind of knew it was known for that, but I didn't realize how much. So part of my experience working in the city of Dallas made me realize I was more oriented to small towns. I just think it's a different, people move to small towns and stay in small towns because of the familiarity with people, each other. And so in my line of work, it's kind of a different situation or a different mindset when it comes to the government. Still, the familiarity with people, the expectation that there's kind of a different level of service. You know, after you move to a big city like Austin or Dallas, you know, the services they provide are of the highest caliber, but there's rarely anything personal about it. And in a town like this, everybody really knows each other. And, you know, that's not unusual that way. And so the whole expectations are more. And, you know, in my line of work, that makes it a little more of a challenging for you, but it can also make it really rewarding when you're that close. I mean, basically, I think that's probably the best way to say it. The people are so much closer to the government and what you do in a little town versus a town of 1 million people. And then it doesn't mean the people are any better or any worse. It just means it's a numbers game. You get that big, you just can't provide that kind of personal interaction. You know, there's plenty of people here that will stop by today wanting to see the city manager, and I will be able to accommodate them. You can't stop by City Hall in Austin unannounced and say, "I want to see the city manager." It just doesn't work that way. And it doesn't have anything to do with the city manager. It's just, again, it's just a number thing. So the whole climate's different. In some ways, it puts a little more pressure on the people that do the work. At the same way, like I said, I've always found that's way offset by the opportunity to have more rewarding personal experiences.
Are there any unique challenges that you have faced as city manager of Elgin?
I think here is like I said, for whatever reason, growth and development hasn't quite happened here like it has other. I think most people know this. If you visualize kind of a snapshot of how you perceive the Austin metropolitan area to be, it's almost like northeast corner of that circle. There's a notch where Elgin, Bastrop County is that hasn't seen crazy growth. There was a 5-year period in Kyle where we built 5,000 homes in 5 years. And as phenomenal as that sounds to most people, there's towns all over Austin that have seen that growth. So kind of trying to help catch that up, kind of address the rest of the things of moving forward. We had to make a number of positional changes in operation, but all that is almost trying to evolve the operation from being simply focused on the problem of today and doing a little more visionary thinking about the future. So now we're in a position where we're talking about various developments that have that we could build up to 8,000 homes in the next 4 or 5 years here, which will put that in perspective. The city of Elgin today has about 2,500 homes on the ground. So you're really thinking about tripling the size of the town. So that means major challenges all the way around, growing all the services we have to grow and building the infrastructure we need. And, you need to do some forward thinking if you're going to have that in place. So it's challenging. And those are examples of things that in the end I find rewarding. I've been in places where, the economy was such where every year all you were doing was worried about not having to lay off people and not having to cut services. And so this kind of action brings a whole different set of challenges for us, but it's much better than the alternative.
So I think that my last question for you today is, what value do you see in preserving the history of a town like this?
American history was my minor in college, but it wasn't until, frankly, I got here to realize that saying about Texas being a whole another place or whatever, that's not just a tourist catchphrase. It's really true. And Texas has its own everything, and history is that way here. So Elgin, I think, is really fascinating. This building we're in is really interesting. And I've never in my life seen 2 railroad tracks that cross like they do right outside here, like an intersection. That's really cool. But I think there's always unique stories that people are fascinated by. We relocated a train station in Kyle when I was there. And it was really fascinating to me that people would constantly seek us out with train memorabilia and stories, and that they were into trains and just wanted somebody to have this thing. And we didn't advertise it. People literally would just stop by one day and have historic lanterns or things like that. That felt that strongly about having the proper history located in the right place. So that showed me that there's always niches like this all over the place where you make them available for people, they can draw to it. So as our downtown continues to evolve and grow, I think one thing that I've been really pleased about in Elgin that is sometimes hard to get people to understand is that while our commerce is going to be driven by businesses on 290 and the new homes and all the new stuff, quote unquote, essentially is going to get built is all going to be outside of where you and I are sitting today. Everybody seems to understand the thing that sets you apart is your downtown, the historic downtown. That's the really neat thing that Elgin has going for it. 290 is going to look like it does in Maine or any place. It's going to be a highway, and it's going to have stores, and those things are all important to us. Really important for the business end of the city, but to keep our character, to keep us unique, downtown area, respect for history, and certainly the 2 depot buildings we have, keeping them viable and vibrant are going to be a really important part of that.
That was Tom Mattis speaking about his work as city manager of Elgin. If you'd like to learn more about Elgin's history, check out the rest of the podcast, or come visit us at the Elgin Depot Museum, which is open Wednesdays through Fridays from 10 to 2.